Hi, it's just 4 o'clock, calling to order the Board of Health meeting for the Hanson Board of Health of June 8th. We'll go to roll call. Arlene Diaz,
Here.
Kevin Perkins. Kevin's not here. And I'm Dennis O'Connell. I'm present. First order of business is approving the minutes of May 11th. Everyone's had a chance to read them. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of May 11th.
And I'll second that motion. And we'll go to roll call, Arlene.
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. Next order, should we hold off on reorganize, see if Kevin shows up or? Oh, there's Kevin there.
Hello.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, this is Kevin Perkins. How you doing, guys?
We just approved the minutes of May 11th, Kevin, if you had a chance to read them.
I did. I wasn't at that meeting, but
Okay.
I looked at them. It looked fine to me.
Okay, so it's 201 on that. Next up is to reorganize the board.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion for nominations.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for a nomination to keep Dennis as chair.
And I'll second that motion. We'll go to roll call, Arlene.
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Next up, I'd like to make a motion to renominate Kevin Perkins as vice chair. I need a second on that.
I'll second that. This is Kevin.
And we'll go to roll call, Arlene.
No.
Kevin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also.
Okay, I'm gonna, hold on. Did Arlene vote no? It was hard to hear.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
Next up on the agenda, we have a well permit for 92 Pleasant Street. There's someone here presenting it, or?
I'm not sure if he was gonna log in or not.
Did we have any issues with it, Teresa? Do you know?
I don't believe so, no.
I didn't see anything that jumped out at me either, Dennis. The only thing I would ask is just that they do a survey of the physical well location once it's installed.
Right,
That's all. I think that's important with any well. So
right, to have on record.
yeah, just for us and for any engineers that are working on abutting properties, that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, if no one has objections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the well permit for 92 Pleasant.
No,
I'll
no,
make the
no
motion.
objection. I'll second that motion.
And we'll go to roll call, Arlene.
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Next up is the well regulations. I believe everyone received a copy of them. If you had a chance to review them. Any issues that you'd want to see addressed or changed or?
I don't see anything really, Dennis. It's just with me, like I said a few minutes ago, is really just even on irrigation wells, I think it's important that we just we have a standard just to have someone do a survey to locate the physical well once it's installed.
I didn't get it. That's in our regulations already, isn't it? Is is it required to have a plot plan showing the physical location of the well once it's installed?
I don't think so.
Is that something we should entertain as putting in the regulations?
For a water supply, I believe.
No,
but
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
think-
no, just so that we have the location of the well. It's not required that they present one after they finish. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't believe it is. I don't think it specifies for irrigation wells. I think that's just as important.
Well,
Uh,
is that something we should address and make it required that regardless, we should get a location?
Yeah, I think that all wells should be located on a survey plan indicating not just the proposed well installation, because sometimes things will happen that they can't put a well, whether they don't hit water or they hit lead, they hit rock or something. That I think that it's important just to, after the well's installed, that we get, similar to like a septic as-built.
Right.
To get, an as-built for the well that is the physical location of it.
Yeah. Like I said, maybe we should put some kind of language in there, in the regulations requiring this.
Yeah, prior to a final sign off on it.
Yes, yes. We'll look into that further.
Can I say something here?
Sure,
One of the
go ahead.
questions again from drillers is the fact that the requirement of having a drinking well test, drinking water test on an irrigation well. A lot of drillers feel it's not necessary, where it's an irrigation well only.
Do
Yeah.
we in our regulations require that? Because I'm not seeing that. Unless I haven't gotten down.
It doesn't specify, on the regulations, it doesn't specify that the testing is only required for drinking water. It says
Okay.
wells.
I'm looking.
Wow.
See.
So I guess we could maybe add to it, because I don't think that's really necessary either. My opinion on an irrigation well for them to do testing on it.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to locate it. The testing I see, we could waive that. I don't see that as being necessary, but.
Is this something we want to address later? Should we look into it further or?
Yeah, I think if maybe we could just draft those two things into it, and then maybe we could ratify it at the next meeting.
Yeah, let's just get it, some kind of good language on it. So if we cover all the loopholes.
Yeah,
You know-
definitely, that'd be good.
Okay, we'll try to have that ready for next meeting. Next up is the COVID update. Should we wait till the agents report on that, Gil?
Yeah, probably should. There's really not much on that, so we can go past that now, so.
Okay, well, we go straight to the septic plans. First up would be 85 High Street, Collins Engineering.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
How are you? Would you like me to display the plan, or you want me to just give you a quick rundown on what we're looking for with it?
yeah, overview would be good, please.
Okay. So my name is Peter Lyons. For the record, I work with Collins Engineering, representing the homeowner, doing the repair. 85 High Street, it's a lot with a wetland in the rear, pretty high groundwater on site. So we are able to provide a gravity septic system based on the topography of the lot. It slopes down from the front yard where the house is, down toward a wetland in the rear. There's approximate elevation change of 15 feet to the back of the property. So we're able to use that slope to keep it a gravity system. We meet all of the standard Title V setbacks. However, we're seeking local upgrade approval for a sieve analysis instead of a perk test. And that's due to a high groundwater situation out there. And secondly, a reduction from 4 feet to 3 feet between the bottom of the system and the high groundwater. The 4 to 3 foot is gonna help us out with the grading a little bit and promote the use of a gravity system. I guess if you guys have reviewed the plans or if there's any questions, I'll answer them now.
Did everyone have a chance to read Mr. Donovan's notes and do we have any questions for
Yes.
this?
I don't have any questions.
No, I don't have any questions either, Dennis. It's just a sieve analysis and a groundwater reduction for a foot. There's no increase in flow or anything at this property, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, no, I don't see any issues. I'll make a motion to approve the plan for 85 High Street.
I'll second that.
And we'll go to roll call. Arlene
Yeah,
and Kevin.
Yes.
I'm a yes also. Thank you. Next up would be 36 Ocean Ave, Webby Engineering.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Alan Diaz, representing the estate of Paul Runny for 36 Ocean Avenue.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
If you want, I'll give you a quick overview of the plan. Sure that you have it. This is a very small lot on Ocean Avenue. I'm dealing with about 1,900 square feet. The only thing eligible for this property based on the shape of the lot in the room on the lot is a tight tank. So what we have proposed here is a 2,000 gallon H20 loading tight tank. The reason that we need some variances, if you look at the plan, the lot line does go through the structure. So in order for us to get this tank in, I need to be 6 inches off of the property line on the northerly side of the property, which is Depot Street, which is an unconstructed paper street. And then I need to be 3 feet off of the property line from the abutter. So as you can see, we have no room. We do have high groundwater, but that's the only thing that we can put on this particular lot. I did notify the abutters, one being the town of Hanson, the other one being Stephen B. Ford. I presented the cards to the Board of Health office along with the hearing notice. So what we're looking for is the approval for the tight tank. What came into the office today was pursuant to the particular section in Title V that governs tight tanks, we need to have a deed restriction in place prior to the issuance of the disposal works construction permit. So we have submitted Jenna Saruda, trustee for the estate for Paul Runny, a declaration of restrictive covenant, which references the tight tank, references the fact that there'll be no increase in flow, and this is only going to be for a 2-bedroom structure. Are there any questions?
Looks pretty straightforward.
No, I don't see any questions. I can't imagine Depot Street is ever going to be constructed due to the close proximity of wetlands. So I don't think it's an issue with being half a foot off that property line. And as long as it's, like you said, it's going to have a 2-bedroom deed restriction, so there's no increase, and it's going to have a deed notation on the property being served by a tight tank, correct?
Right. Yep.
Yes, that has been recorded and has been submitted to the Board of Health office. They come
Okay.
up today.
All right, so the only thing would just be what, a pumping and maintenance schedule prior to the certificate of compliance, we get something in place?
Correct. There's nothing in the regulations that require it, but we will provide prior to the issuance of the certificate of compliance, a contract with either the trustee or the prospective buyer will entertain an agreement to have it pumped on a will call basis.
Okay, no, that sounds good to me. I don't have any issues, Dennis.
I'll entertain a motion to approve 36 Ocean Ave.
I will make that motion to approve the plan for 36 Ocean Ave.
Do I hear a second? Oh, I'll second that. And we'll go to roll call. Arlene,
Abstain.
yep, Kevin,
I'm a yes.
and I'm a yes also. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, thank you very much. Good night, folks.
Good evening. Next up, we have 53 West Washington Street, Grady Engineering. We have a rep.
My name is Brendan Kling from Grady Consulting, here representing my client, Gulf Shore Group Home. And it was a pretty straightforward system. Got an 8-bedroom for an existing group home at 53 West Washington Street. We're looking to do a 2,000-gallon septic tank, 2,000-gallon pump chamber, distribution box, and a leaching chamber system. And we are just looking to do a local upgrade for sieve analysis. It was a little wet the day we went out to do the perk, so we weren't able to actually run water, but the results of the sieve were good. We were just on the border of two different classifications, and we went with the more conservative one. So I think everything here is pretty good, pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions on 53 West Washington?
I don't have any questions. Were all the review comments addressed? I think it was some basic stuff. It was just showing observation port and then buoyancy calcs and that stuff. Was that all addressed?
Yeah, yes, they were. They were addressed, and they should have been brought over to the town hall or to the Board of Health office.
All right, if all that stuff was addressed, I don't have any issues with it, and I'll make a motion to approve 53 West Washington Street septic repair plan.
I'll second that.
And we'll go to roll call. Arlene
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes.
I'm a yes also. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Next up, I don't know which one it is, 114 Progress Way, Mackenzie Engineering. Yes, no?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm here. Al Loomis from Mackenzie Engineering.
Hi, Al, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, thank you.
That's good. I'm here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Joyce. I believe Kathy Joyce is on this Zoom call. Their situation is that they have a failed septic system on a relatively new system. This particular system was installed, I believe, in 2015. They had an inspection done. They had the tanks pumped. I'm sorry, they had the tanks pumped, and they realized that it was failing. It was actually failing to the surface. So on a subsequent inspection of the system, it was determined that one of the two chamber rows was collapsed probably early on. I don't know if a moving truck backed over it or what, but it was found to be collapsed. So one trench was doing all the work, and the previous owner had some pretty stupendous water bills. And I don't know if it was irrigation or if it was overuse of the system, but the combination of the two things caused the one trench to seal up after the collapse of the first one. So we're proposing basically to replace the system in place, which any contaminated soil will be removed and down to fresh soil and replaced with Title V sand, and the chambers will be reconstructed. We submitted the plan. It's been reviewed by Mr. Donovan. He had 3 comments. 2 of the comments I addressed with notes. If you have the plan in front of you, there's a supplemental general notes at the bottom, almost center of the sheet. And I added notes 7 and 8, which have to do with basically assessing the system at the time of construction. But the first notation under Mr. Donovan's comments says that a variance is required for a Frimpter adjustment. So I had never encountered that on any plans we've done to date, and we've done a number of them in Hanover and Hanson where Mr. Donovan reviews. So I have a response letter. I don't know if you have a copy of that in front of you, but
I sent the response letter to all of you guys this afternoon with revised plans. So it wasn't on
So-
the original email.
Oh, there we go.
Plan revision for meeting, that one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yep.
Yep, I got it right here.
So if you see under the review comments, under item number 1, I addressed them per the numbering of Jim Donovan's comments. So item 1, I said in that response, we have reviewed 310 CMR 15.00 Title 5, specifically 310 CMR 15.103, and the Hanson Board of Health Supplemental Title 5 regulations with respect to the requirement of a variance for use of a FRMTA calculation to determine the seasonal high groundwater elevation. We find no requirement for a variance for the use of the FRMTA calculation. Instead, 310 CMR 15103 3B3 describes using FRMTA as one of the alternate methods of determining seasonal high groundwater in the absence of redoximorphic features. So I'm not sure how we would even apply for a variance, and I'm hoping we can avoid that route only because it would involve notification of others, and it's a time thing. Unfortunately, Mr. and Mrs. Joyce are pumping their tank on a regular basis. They have also reduced their use by not doing laundry, things like that. So we're trying to expedite this to the point we can. So I'm not sure where the requirement of a variance comes from, but I don't believe it's something we need to do. So I defer to the board, and I can answer any questions you might have.
Just real quick. So you're basically just using the reserve area of the original system, which is in between the trenches.
We're actually reusing the same area, but calling for any contaminated soil to be removed. In the case of one trench, what we could see through the inspection port, it was bone dry, so it may never have been used. It may have collapsed prior to the system going into use. The other one, because of the overuse, had a biomat that had failed and was actually retaining the water. So we're calling for that to be removed and replaced with Title V sand as necessary. So that's something we'd have to evaluate in the field when they do the actual excavation, just to make sure that we get all of the any contaminated soil there may be. The soil out there is excellent. I actually did the initial perk tests out there, and it was all sand for as deep as you could dig. So there's no qualms about the quality of the soil, certainly.
So you basically want to, I mean, obviously the tank is good. It's a brand new system. You're keeping the tank. You want to keep the D box and basically just pull the topsoil, pull the chambers, and pull out any sand that's bad and replace it and put it right back where it's going.
That's correct. Yes. And
wouldn't it make more sense to just use the reserve area what's right next to it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it's in the same bed, but
yeah,
I mean, the
It
reserve
could be
area obviously is in between these trenches. It's staggered, it looks like to me.
yeah, the same issue, I would be concerned with the same issue that if there is any contaminated soil, yes, we could use the reserve area to answer your question. You would still want to ensure that if any contamination is moved out laterally from one or both of the trenches, that you remove it. It's only basically 2.5 feet away. So,
right,
from one chamber to where the new chamber would go. So we don't have a strong feeling. We were just trying to reuse the D box in place, leave the plumbing in place basically, which we could actually do by having a short pipe to one reserve area trench and a longer pipe to the other. If we put speed levelers on the D box, it would make it equal distribution to both. There wouldn't be any qualms about having one pipe steeper than the other or anything like that.
Right.
So as to the D-box, in my response, note number 8 says distribution box shall be inspected at the time of construction and checked for structural integrity and level. If necessary, it shall be re-leveled or replaced. The distribution box shall be water tested in the presence of the Board of Health agent. So we address that in the event that we dug it up in the course of doing the inspection of the system after it was determined to be in failure. And it looked to be structurally sound, but we'll get a better handle on that when it's fully exposed, I guess.
Which chamber actually collapsed, that was collapsed when you dug it up?
The
How far-
one nearest
how
the
far down?
street, the one nearest the street. So it was right at the head end of the chamber, right where the distribution pipe goes into it.
Right at the
They
beginning.
actually cameraed it, and they also dug up where the pipe goes into the chamber, and it could be seen that the chamber had collapsed at that point. And that was borne out by looking in the inspection port where it was bone dry, whereas the other one had water in it, had effluent in it. So, yeah.
So the other question I was just gonna ask, I don't fully understand, what's the reason for the FRMPTR adjustment? Are you trying to change what the groundwater determination was before when you guys initially
No.
designed these systems and did your perk tests, or what?
No, we used the original perk tests. They were done back in 2013. We
Yep.
did a FRMPTR adjustment at the time because we actually dug 132 inches in one hole and 120 in the other. The hole was caving because it was basically sugar sand.
Right.
So it's actually a conservative way to address this because we didn't observe anything at the time in the way of an indication of groundwater. And you're certainly familiar with the area. That particular location, it drops off in all directions. There's actually wetlands surrounding the whole project, but at a significantly lower elevation. So when we did these soil tests, we dug as deep as we could get without the hole collapsing and found no evidence of groundwater. So as a conservative measure, it's normally required that you do a FRMPTR adjustment. So
Yep.
we used the Duxbury 79 well and applied a FRMPTR adjustment to it. It figured out to be a foot, 1.85 feet at the time. And that was that at the time that had daily readings on that well. So this was good to within hours of when the soil was observed in terms of any adjustment that should go on the well, on the test pits rather. So it was the only thing open to us at the time to determine water table other than to use observed water table.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, it's conservative because water table could be another 10 feet down for all we know, but we applied it to the bottom of the observed test pit at the time.
Right. Well, I'm just confused. So did that FRMPTR calculation change on the well that you used before from then to now? Is that why you need the adjustment? I'm just confused as to why.
Well, no, we're not, we didn't redo the adjustment. We used the adjustment as you should that was in place on the day that you test. In other words, you wouldn't use today's adjustment. Say we are in a drought. So that FRMPTR adjustment may be 4 feet now for all we know, or vice versa. If we had gotten a significant rainfall recently, which we did, the FRMPTR adjustment might only be a foot. So you should use the adjustment on the day that you test because that's an indicator of where groundwater is on that particular day. So we correctly did not do a new FRMPTR adjustment based on today, for instance, because you want an accurate reading of where the well may be. And that would be at the time of the soil testing. So the plan has the original soil testing data and the original Frimpter adjustment on it, as it should. Did I explain that, or did I confuse the issue?
I'm just confused as to why this is in front of the board, really. I don't fully understand why this is in front of the board for a decision. Where it was designed with a primary and reserve that, you know, if the system's failed, I would think you could just use the reserve area and you could be issued the permit.
Can I say something here? This is Gil.
Go ahead,
Can you hear
Gil.
me?
Yep.
Yes, I've been involved in this since the beginning when the people first had the backup and whatnot. Basically, we had the one trench that failed. It took a while to find out that we had one chamber that was completely collapsed, and that one trench has probably never ever been used. So the one trench has been constantly used since probably, you know, like you said, the system was installed. So we're not really, I don't really think we're getting too deep in anything. We're just, you know, he's just replacing, you know, what has failed. And
No,
think just
I understand that, but we're technically not supposed to do repairs to leaching fields, correct?
So he's replacing.
Right, so if he's replacing it, just put it in the reserve area and be done with it, really is like what I'm thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the one trench has never been used. It's just, I mean, that can be, the chambers can be replaced, that have been rolled over or whatever, you know, find out what was damaged there. Because
Sure.
you just have one trench that's, you know, just completely filled up, you know, above that and everything. So, you know, I think it's pretty simple Frimpter adjustment. I'm not sure myself on that. I try to read up on it, but it doesn't, you know, I don't think it applies here.
Mr. Chairman, we certainly don't object to using the reserve area. It's just the configuration of the D box, and as Gil points out, one trench has apparently never been used. But if it's the board's wish, there's no issue with us using the reserve area, certainly. Again, we'd want to ensure that there's no contamination from the one trench that was in use that traveled laterally into that area. So we would over excavate any obviously contaminated soil. I guess my question would be, can we do that in the field and submit an as-built, or do I need to resubmit a plan? Or the hope is that we can expedite this to get Mr. and Mrs. Joyce back in business.
I don't see an issue with it on my end from either direction, whether you use the primary, you know, that's there and you truly have a collapsed chamber that you're gonna fix. I don't see an issue with that, or putting it in the reserve area either. My only concern is if you're gonna do this a second time, hopefully it's not gonna fail again or anytime soon. That's my only concern, that we're positive that this failed due to a collapsed chamber. I mean, if it was collapsed halfway down lengthwise, so you had still a full row and a half a row, I mean, maybe it wasn't venting properly, I get it, but I'd hate to just see this, you know, get pulled up, go back where it was, and they're in here 2 years later with a failed system.
No, we agree. And the only thing that gives me confidence is that, first of all, I did the soil testing out there. Everything was far less than 2 minutes an inch. It was great sand, nice clean sand. There's no reason that this should fail. We were mystified when we heard that the system had failed. Now, as we pointed out, one trench was collapsed, apparently never used, and the water records of the owner prior to Mr. and Mrs. Joyce had a $1,400 water bill, which I did the math. The number of gallons they use equates to 808 gallons per day. So unless they were irrigating for 4-6 hours a day, I don't even know how they use that much water. My feeling is that some of it must have gone down the drain. We also don't know their habits in terms of what they put down the drain. Mr. and Mrs. Joyce I grilled them ruthlessly about their habits of what they run down the sink. And Mr. Joyce assures me that he very strictly enforces what goes down the drain in the household, and Mrs. Joyce did as well. So there's no reason for the system to fail, and I have confidence based on my observations of the soil that it would work fine under the circumstances.
Are the owners getting ready to sell the property? Is that, I mean, I
No,
understand you said it was in failure, but
No, the only reason they discovered the failure is that they actually had a breakout to the surface over the septic tank. So when they pumped it, the septic hauler exposed the deep box and observed that it was in failure because the water was up over the invert of the pipes.
Mhm.
So when he pumped it out, he didn't get much water back into the system at the time, into the D box rather. So what I suspect is we saw about 4 or 5 inches of water when we looked in the inspection port of the failed trench, not the collapsed one, but the failed one. So I suspect that it was getting some sidewall leaching, but not enough to keep up with the daily flow, especially with no help from the other trench. So
was there an observation port in the collapsed trench too at the end?
yes,
Was there water in that one?
no, that was bone dry.
It was, okay, all right,
Yes.
all right.
My concern is, should we consult Mr. Donovan again on the variance that he wanted?
He's actually on vacation. I called him yesterday to question him about this, and he said, yes, it is a variance. I mean, I've never seen it on anything. Have you ever seen it?
No. I haven't
No.
seen it.
And I know Al said that he's never seen it.
We've done probably, I know we did about 12 of these in Hanover, and Jim reviews for Hanover as well.
Right, yeah.
And we did a number of them out here at Progress Way that involve Frempter calculations, and it's never been an issue. So that's why I was surprised when he said that a Frempter adjustment requires a variance. There is absolutely nothing in Title V. I cited the sections. You can look under 15103 3B, which addresses this. And I quoted that in my response letter. There's nothing that says it requires a variance, and we have never encountered this in any town.
I seen that, yeah.
This is also on the high side of Progress Way. This isn't on the low side. It's right on the corner of Progress Way and the other street there. So it's on the high side of Progress Way. So I mean, even Frempter, I don't think it really matter here.
As I say, it's a conservative approach really to apply it to the bottom of hole, but it ensures everyone that water is not an issue, certainly. Sometimes models are difficult to see in the wrong type of sand. If it's very coarse and gravelly, it's very difficult to pick out models. But in this case, it was more of a medium sand, and you should see them if they're evident. And there was no indication at the bottom of hole. As Gil points out, we're well above certainly the river and the wetlands to the south. So I think applying the Frempter calculation to this was conservative, at least. And I don't know the origin of Jim's concern about requiring a variance.
Did you guys determine groundwater by observing it on any of these other systems in here? Or do you use a Frempter for every, you did the initial development, correct?
We didn't do the initial testing. Actually, Peter Dillon at the time did all the soil testing out here.
Mhm.
And I can't tell you exactly which lots we perked. I know I did 11 and 12 at least. Peter did a significant amount of testing throughout. We kind of filled in between the ones that didn't get tested by him at the time. So I know there were some holes that had redox features in them, more on the low side of the project.
Yep.
And those would be reflected on any plans that we submitted to the board. As you see on our plan, we have under each test log, we have standing water observed, in this case, none, weeping observed, none, modeling observed, none.
Right.
And in that, we would note, if there was modeling observed, we would note the elevation. So if you look at, I would suggest if you want to research it, if you look at lots 7, 8, 9, which are across the street from this, and even, I think it's 2 and 3, some of those may have redox features mentioned in them. But this was, we got down 11 feet and there was no evidence at all of redox and no models at all. So that's why we applied the front. Sometimes we like to, if you go down 11 feet and all of a sudden you see models, now everybody's sure. And it's a good thing to see them at that depth. You don't want to see them at, 2 feet down. Now you got a mounted system, but we kind of like to see them if you get down that deep, but there were none to observe in this case. So that's why we use the fronter adjustment. You could potentially use observed. It's December of 2013. It's not necessarily high groundwater season yet. You would consider April, May, probably high groundwater season. So you can't, we don't like to say that it's observed unless there are, if you were on a sand hill and there was a pond next to the sand hill, you would say, and they would teach you this in the soil evaluators course, that the pond would be a good indicator of where water table is in that case. You get down in Plymouth and places like that, we have kettle holes.
Yep.
And kettle ponds. But in this case, there are wetlands not too far away. So to be conservative, we apply a fronter calculation to it.
Okay. And that's just that's an adjustment from what was observed in 2013.
Yeah, on the very day. So if you look at the plan, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but right where the soil, soil test data is and the fronter adjustment, we go through, we state which well we used, where it was observed in that well on that day, the maximum that it was ever observed in that well, and then a couple of, they're basically coefficients. So you do the calc where it's listed as adjustment. If you run through those numbers, it tells you that the adjustment would, for that particular day, would be 1.85 feet. Now, 3 days later, maybe the water table in that well dropped to, so that it was at 8.20 feet. So you would do a different adjustment on that particular day. But the right way to do it is to take the adjustment on, or at least near the day that you did the soil testing, so that you get an accurate representation. You wouldn't do a fronter adjustment in May for a soil testing that you did in September, because it's likely to be, in fact, I can almost assure you, it would be skewed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I think he covered it pretty good, Dennis.
I'll take a motion to approve it. Are we okay going forward without hearing from Mr. Donovan?
I don't see an issue with it personally. I mean, it sounds like they had mechanical failure. I guess I'd say to to one of the trenches, so it was operating at, at half capacity, and they overwhelmed the other trench by, it sounds like, from the use of the water. So it doesn't sound like we actually have failing soils there or an issue with groundwater. If it was groundwater, they would have observed water at the end of the trenches on the one that was collapsed. So from what they're telling me, I don't see an issue with it.
I'll entertain a motion to approve 114 Progress Way.
I'll make
I'll
that
make a
motion.
motion.
I'll second that motion then.
We'll go to roll call. Arlene.
Before we go to roll call, when the engineer gets back, can we ask him to provide more information and do a follow-up that way?
The
You know
engineer,
what I mean?
Mr. Donovan?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
feel more comfortable if we heard some input from.
I think in this case here, though, I think we got to move forward and let them do their
Oh,
repair.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
I
yeah.
think it's more of an
I think they
emergency
should.
repair. They're on a pumping schedule, and I think they need to get that.
Oh, I
and I
understand.
should,
I just want to
but
hear
if
from
some-
returns from vacation, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Yes.
And
Mr.
Kevin,
Chairman, if I may, if Mr. Donovan wants to contact me directly, I'm almost always in the office.
very good. Very
All right.
good. And Kevin?
I'm a yes also.
And I'm a yes also. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks very much. Thanks for your time.
Next up, we have 202 Forest Trails. Collins Engineering.
Good evening. This is Peter again with Collins Engineering. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, hi, Peter.
Hi. Sure. So this is 202 Forest Trail. This is another request for a septic system repair on a failure for a 4-bedroom home. The site is about a 3/4 acre lot with wetlands in the rear of the property. Our proposal is to replace the existing septic tank and leaching field in the backyard and provide a septic tank and pump chamber, and then pump the effluent up to the front yard along Forest Trail. And that's going to give us the most separation to the wetlands from the leaching field. So with this one, this is another high groundwater site, so we end up with a pump and a slightly elevated system in the front yard. 2 requests, we're looking for a sieve analysis instead of a perk test due to the high groundwater. And the favorable sands was down about 7 feet here. So we would have been doing a perk test below groundwater, which we can't really do. Secondly, we're looking for a 4 to 3 foot reduction beneath the bottom of the system. And that's going to help us out a little bit with the grading, keeping the cost of the system down. The mound out front will be, a foot lower than the variance. And the important things with that is it's going to help us eliminate the concern of shedding surface water back towards our property, as well as the abutting properties and Forest Trail itself. That's about it. So a sieve analysis instead of the perk test, and a 4 to 3 reduction is what we are requesting tonight. That is all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions on the plans?
No, I don't have any questions, Dennis. Looks good to me.
What am I looking at? Page 4. Oh, okay, aquifer protection. Oh, okay.
Where is this?
The notes for 202 Forest Trails.
What's it, zone 2 or something?
Yes, zone 1, zone 2 aquifer protection. Yep. It's page 4 I'm looking at if you're interested.
Page 4.
Add to the plan all notes that apply, 6 and 7.
Yeah, he just wanted to note that it, it doesn't, usually there's a note on there say it, it's in a zone 1, zone 2, or it's not. This isn't in a zone 2, correct? Or zone 1?
No, it does not. And we actually did, we should have sent in revised plans. We have revisions from June 2nd. With those notes added to the plan, it says site does not fall within an aquifer protection. And additionally, site does fall within a zone X, which is a no risk flood zone. So those notes were recently added to the plan.
No one has any questions on the plans? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the plans for 202 Forest Trail when provide, and that they needed to provide updated plans to the office.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
And we'll go to roll call. Arlene?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. Good night.
Good night. What's up next? Agents report, is it? Let me see my schedule.
Cross Street.
There's so many different things on. I'm going to look and see. Do we have a cross street, or is that one of the ones added?
I'm sorry, no, we don't, sorry.
I heard you say cross street.
All the plans,
And I
all
know
the
we
plans
had-
that you guys just did are done.
All right.
If we're all finished, we'll entertain the agents report, if you're ready, Gil.
Sounds good to me, Dennis.
All right, so, as we all know, COVID's pretty much wrapped up. There's still a few loose ends on everything. As of, with the results of COVID, we see the real estate market is definitely going absolutely insane. Just approved like 6 plans now. There's probably another 4 or 5 plans on the desk that I approve. The unbelievable what's happening out there with the real estate market, the amount of septic systems being installed and inspections out there. Food inspections are pretty much done. We have a lot of places we did inspect because they hadn't opened. Also, as of pretty much today, I was informed that Espresso's is no longer in business. They are closing, which they have moved out a lot of their equipment. So things are going pretty good, but I think we're going to find in the months to come, we have a couple of housing issues. I think we'll end up with all that since the evictions have been lifted. So I think you're going to see an increase of that as far as housing issues. So, the offices, as usual, it's busy and business as usual. And we're keeping up with everything, and I think things are still going very smooth. So if anybody has any questions, that's pretty much it in a nutshell right now.
Any questions for Gil?
No. Camp Kawani. Was that open? Was the water tested?
Yes, the water has been tested. I took a sample Friday. Not sure as far as, they've opened it up, but my part of it was to get the water test. It was tested. It was an express test. It came back Saturday afternoon. It's all set to go. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to transpire there. My part of it is completed, and we'll find out what they're going to end up doing afterwards. So.
And we do weekly testing there, right?
Yes.
Okay. So will you, and I know before it used to be on Mondays, so will you change it to a different day of the week because you just did it on Friday?
We'll keep it on Monday.
Okay.
Because it was an
All right.
express test, so I mean, it's not even a day off. So, and the count is very low.
All right. That was my question.
Thank you. Any other questions for Gil? If none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. I second that motion.
And we'll go to roll call. Arlene?
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes, please.
and I'm a yes also. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.
You as well.
Bye-bye.